When targeting trout, fish these spots. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, like diamonds,
And Luke Simons.
like diamonds. We're here. If you're watching this, we're on Smart Fishing Spots. That's our proprietary and custom app. It's on desktop as well, which is the desktop version. And we get a lot of questions, especially in spring and then going into summer. It's obviously very active time for boaters and kayakers, wade fishermen. A lot of people are fishing. And people will say, hey, where should I start? I just want to catch some fish. Start with trout. It's certainly the easiest. Obviously, in Florida, we got snook and reds and flounder. And we're in, I think, is this a Texas one right here, Luke? Or are you
Yeah, this is in Florida.
Florida?
This is over in the Gulf Coast of Florida, and we're going to start with an example where you have relatively clear water to where you can see seagrass. So this is for areas with bays and seagrass. The second spot will be more like river and marsh type systems. They're actually pretty similar, but different. So that's why we're going to split them up into two.
Cool. So two case studies talking about trout. It is the thing that you should start with. And honestly, it's what we go to a lot if we're just having a tough day, right? There's times where the bite's not as good for redfish and snook, which is what Luke and I like to prefer catching. There's some of you that love catching flounder. There's just some days that it's tougher on those species, and trout are always easier to catch, but they're not everywhere. You still have to know where the 90-10 is. So we said, let's just get on a podcast, show a little bit of what smart fishing spots can do and exactly the types of spot. Don't focus on this GPS spot, which is what we always say. Focus on the types of spots to catch speckled trout here in spring and summer. So what do we got here, Luke? We're on the west coast of Florida. You've got a channel there.
Yes, the channel. Let me get this. I'll get the smart spots out of the way. So these highlighted areas. This is from the system. It's looking at the actual tides and weather based on right now. But we're going to talk about just the macro. We're not worried about right now. And this is basically the strategy I use when I'm going out, taking some kids out, somebody new that just hasn't really caught many fish, or if this is my kind of fail proof. Let's not get skunked today. Last ditch effort to at least catch fish. And the strategy for this is bay. This is for open bays with grassy areas. Is all about the highways, right? Think about how the water flow is going, and the fact that trout, really all these ambush predators, trout, redfish, flounder, snook, they all like structure, right? They're ambush oriented, and if you can find the outside edges of grass or just the edges of grass along a channel, there's going to be trout there. I mean, it is extremely rare when there's not, but also there's jacks patrolling this. There's Spanish mackerel patrolling these types of zones. There's pompano going in and out. It's a great way to go out and just get a lot of action. I've actually fished this spot, this whole zone, multiple times, and every single time I've gotten a bunch of trout plus some bonus fish. And again, the cool thing about these satellite maps is you can zoom in and see, right, here's the channel. Like you can put the 1 foot contours where you can really see some depth. So you have this deep channel, get down to 13 feet of water, and then you have it get up real shallow, and you can see some grass. So I'll take the 1 foot contour off. So you can see the grass, and if you have a big boat, obviously don't go up on the flat because it's shallow there. You can just troll or drift the edges. You can see some channels that are carved through the flat. And if you have a shallow running boat or a kayak, when you see this camo bottom, right, it's a little bit splotchy where it's some grass, some sand. Trout love the camo bottom. So if I ever see this sort of bottom on a satellite map and I want to catch trout, just simply drift over this zone, and you hit. As far as lures, it's very easy. The small little paddle tail. This is the Slam Shady 2.0 on a 1/4 ounce jig head. If there's trout there, they're going to hit this thing, and plus it'll get the pompano, Spanish mackerel, and other stuff. So it's really simple as that. Find this type of zone. You can drift it. You can troll it. If you don't have a boat, you could look for the same type of situation. That's what I was looking at earlier, from shore. Right, here's that same channel as it comes inland, and this is a park. And I haven't fished this before, but I'll be very surprised if there are not some trout along this edge.
Look at that little camo bottom right there, dude.
Yeah, camo bottom. There's probably redfish and snook up along the shorelines. Redfish and snook like to have the the kind of protection of the shore, but trout just love the like 3 to 6 feet of water. 3 to 6 feet of water grass with trout is just an awesome combination.
Do you mind dropping the contour lines in? So we have a layer
Yep.
that's even 1/2 foot contour lines the more you zoom in.
Yep.
Yes, look at that. Yeah, 10 and a half, 13 feet in that channel. Then it goes up to that little bar, then back down again. That looks
Yes.
great.
Yeah. So this zone, like for trout, if I was going to fish there, I would get out, that same lure, 1/4 ounce jig head, Slam Shady 2.0, and just bounce it along the bottom, or even swim it. And again, if there's anything there feeding on bait fish, then there's going to be some action. Um, and that's why yes, you can take shrimp doing this. You'll just be wrestling a lot of catfish. Like I really do think that for just going out and just getting trout on bays like this, it's easier with lures, and you don't have to deal with all the catfish. But again, the trout are aggressive, and a trick to knowing, obviously this is a big expanse. It looks small on the map, but it's a big area. And so just as far as determining which zones to do to fish, to spend your time, look for birds, look for diving birds, look for cormorants. And typically the birds will lead you the way. Otherwise, just troll around or drift through, and you'll eventually start plucking off and seeing where the high concentration areas are.
We did a live podcast, meaning uncut, unedited, out of a Freedom Boat Club boat, because we had some people saying, "Oh, I'm really struggling. I'm a Freedom Boat Club member, and none of the boats, at least at the time, had trolling motors." So we went down to a spot almost identical to this, down in St. Pete area, same type of deal. It was literally a deep channel that had a flat right next to it, and we didn't have a trolling motor, didn't have a power pole. We just drifted. So we went and just drifted with it, and we were throwing that same Slam Shady 2.0 on a jig head. And Luke, what did we catch? 50 or 60 trout? Might have been more. We finally just stopped because it was getting kind of obnoxious. We were trying to see how many we could catch in a row. It was nuts, and we had such a good time. We I think you got up to 10, right? 10 casts in a row where you had a trout on or it popped off at the end. But that was a blast, right? Out of a boat with nothing fancy and just one lure and one jig head.
Yeah, in the wintertime, so that was a wintertime trip. And in the wintertime, they get concentrated in like one little area in many cases. And then typically it's just the one that's a little bit deeper than the others. So yeah, we found a honey hole. We were trolling, and then we kept getting bites in one zone. It wasn't this exact hole, but it was similar to this, where it was like one hole that was just a little bit deeper than the others, and like all the trout for that one area must have been in that one zone, because yeah, it was literally 10 casts in a row, getting hooked up, and it was insane. So as it gets warmer, they spread out. But in spots like this is another, for those listening, we're looking at now a flat that it's not on a channel, it's just the outside flat from a shoreline. This happens to be an island, but we see that bottom, right, camo style bottom. I will be absolutely shocked if there aren't a lot of trout out in this zone as well. And granted, this is where we fish with Chris. I can't think of his last name. At the very beginning of Salt Strong, he won a cooler, and we went fish. Chris Clark, and yeah, we caught some trout. We were going after reds and snook, but we caught some trout up along this shoreline as we were targeting reds and snook. So yeah, trout only, camo bottom on an exposed flat. If you want to get slams, that's when you really need to go a little bit closer to the shoreline. And this is again, camo bottom right next to the shoreline now, but that's a slam spot. So there is a difference between a trout spot and a slam spot. The max fish catching, though, is the trout spot. They're going to be very active, and there's often going to be jacks, mackerel, ladyfish. There's going to be a lot of activity with some occasional cobia and tarpon as well. So for max fish catching, just drifting zones like this is really hard to beat.
Do you mind dropping the 1 foot contour lines again? I want to see how deep it is up to the...
Sure thing. Yeah,
yeah, look at that. 11 and a half, 14 feet down to 2 feet in a pretty small distance in the big scheme of things. And if you guys don't know about contour lines, these are huge. So every line represents a foot or even a 1/2 foot depth change. So the tighter the lines, meaning if you see a bunch of lines together, that's like boom, 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 foot. What's that? A little
shipwreck or something there. It looks like a
sailboat or something.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Huh. Mark that one. Another cool thing is you can actually you can drop waypoints with this app and even export them to your fish finder, export your routes. If you like, we have smart spots. We're not going to show all of it because it's a public video, but you can go boom, 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 and it shows you the total distance and literally export the whole route right to your fish finder, or just keep it right there on your phone in your kayak or paddleboard, Gnu, whatever you're in.
Yeah,
That's cool.
so those with the bigger boat, I mean, literally just trolling. This all looks pretty deep, and you could literally just troll your way up into a flat like this, and just hold the rod out to the side, and just let that lure go along the edge, and you can catch a ton of trout. And again, keep it simple with lures. Like literally use this and don't change. If you're not catching fish, it's not the lure. It's just go to a different zone. And once you get into a good zone, you're gonna know because you'll be getting some bit lines. You want to go
Cool.
over to the kind of the rivers and creeks type of
Yeah.
situation?
Yeah, and if you're wondering on the lure, it's the Slam Shady 2.0. You can only get that at fishstrong.com, and it's a 1/4 ounce jig head. That seems to be the overall. There might be some times if you're super shallow, there's a ton of weeds or grass, you might go with a Haas Helix. But in general, that 1/4 ounce, that's the Haas, football style?
No, it's the Hall's round eye.
Round eye. I'm sorry,
It's the
round
round
eye.
eye. Round eye is just the best all-purpose. But if you're hitting bottom with a 1/4 ounce too fast, that means you're too shallow, right? We're going after trout and max fish catching. If you get up in 2 feet of water, you're going to decrease your odds of catching high quantities. Again, shallower will be a different rigging, and that's where a lot of the redfish are going to be. But when you're doing this type of stuff, max fish catching, 1/4 ounce is very hard to beat. And yeah, again, if you're getting snagged, go deeper because that's where majority of the fish are going to be, especially as this weather gets warmer. All right, so as far as rivers and creeks, so here's the St. Johns River, and then here's kind of some marsh type situations. Similar thing, right? Trout like to be near some sort of structure and near some moving water.
Dude, turn
So,
those spots off. You're getting away all of our spots.
yeah,
Goodness
sorry about
gracious.
that. Yeah, I left the smart spots on there. I'm so used to looking at these, but yeah, it looks like oh dang, I froze up my computer. So we'll leave the smart spots on there. So trout are rarely going to be like way back up into like a dead end cove, right? So they generally like to be not always in the main channel. Let me go ahead and put the 1 foot contour on.
Oh, now you can turn smart spots off. It
There
unfroze.
we are. Yeah, fair enough.
There you
So
go.
we'll put on the 1 foot contour. That way we can see where the main water flow is. So trout love to be near the main water flow, but ideally holding around points or some sort of intersection. In general, what I like to look for is just spots like this that have a couple points, right? So regardless if it's coming in or out, there's just going to be a lot of water flow, and I like being right as a marsh type system is emptying out into the main body of water. Another good looking area right here. You can see some backwater that's emptying out into a creek that is entering the bigger body of water. And what trout will do is they're going to be holding around all these little ambush zones, just waiting to pick off some food. And same exact lure, right? We're in a totally different area, but the same exact thing works. Pretty trout of all sizes eat 3 to 4 inch little small minnows, and bouncing along the bottom is a really effective way to get it. They're holding on the bottom. It's easy for them, so even if they're not aggressive, they can't help but to pop a nice looking meal when it's right in front of their face. So I would try zones like this, right? A little bit of outflow and just bouncing bottom down this shelf. So zones like this, the 1 foot contour is crucial. In many areas where there's marsh type water, the water's not clear enough to see bottom like we could before. So we need to rely on that 1 foot contour, bounce the zones, bounce bottom. If there's nothing there, right, pick out a handful of points. If there's nothing on one, go to the next one, right? Bounce bottom down, nothing on that one. Now go to this point, bounce bottom down, and then hit this island. And in general, keep your eyes open for birds, jumping mullet, right? Wherever there's signs of life, that's generally where the fish are going to migrate to. But areas like this, the reason why I started here is because now in one area, we can target a bunch of points that all have nice depth contours. So we don't have to travel 5 miles between spots. We can literally go, 100 yards, 500 yards, and try the next spot. And just hitting, if you hit 4 or 5 of these spots, even if you've never been here before, at least one of them is going to produce a good amount of fish. And again, keep it simple, same lure, and target the zones wherever you see the most life.
I like it. Yeah, we did something similar. It was in St. Augustine when we fished that time with an insider member, and all the big trout were caught right there at the mouth of these creeks that were flowing out, and we used the Slam Shady 2.0. We kept it so simple.
Yeah, and in
It just keeps on
general,
working.
it's so like this is an example. So when the water's coming in, it's going to be flowing this way, and so basically the mouse on either side is good. On the incoming side, they'll be holding, and you can fish the incoming. But I generally like on the that trip to St. Augustine, we were fishing. It was an outflowing current, and it was pretty low tide. And at the low tide mark, everything ended up getting flushed out into this, like right here was the deepest part of it, and we just sat just down current of it, and we were tossing our lures up, bouncing along the bottom, and just we were catching fish after fish. It was a ton of fun, and it's just such a good and more importantly such an easy strategy to use to get a lot of action.
And if you've heard any of our stuff about the 90-10 zone, it means that 90% of the feeding fish, the ones that are going to bite your lure or your bait, can be found in just 10% of any area at any given time. So that usually means that when you find them, you find a lot of them, right? Not always, but in general, especially if you're just getting a bunch of trout and they're all in that smaller size, there's usually going to be a massive school around. And that's why trolling, we've done so many videos over the years, Luke, on just trolling right. Whether you're in a pedal kayak or you're in a boat, that trolling, just putting you right out to the side with a 1/4 ounce jig head, just like you showed on the little paddle tail, it is amazing the amount of strikes you get. And then when you get one, that's when you can stop and circle back around and try to fish it a little bit quieter without your main engine on, and a little bit stealthier, and cover that whole area, and you'll be shocked at how many trout you can catch.
Yeah, and for trolling too, just a equipment tip is if you're doing a lot of trolling, this style right here is ideal, especially if you're trolling areas with a lot of seagrass. If there's like floating grass, nothing's worse than trolling and you snag some floating grass and you don't know it, and so now you're basically dragging the clump of grass that's not going to get anything. So to maximize results trolling, this is the Haas weedless round eye. So it's basically a jig head, just as before, but now it has a worm hook that enables that hook point to be embedded, so that if you do get some weeds, you can just kind of pop it and it'll slide right off. And now your lure's ready for action. And obviously, when a trout bites it, hook point gets exposed, and so it has a good hookup ratio while being very weedless. But and then lastly, too, on equipment, again, whether you're using this style or the other one, is to use light line. Trout are not that strong. Even like a 30-inch trout, you can easily catch on very light line. Although they have teeth, they're really not good at breaking lines, at like chewing through lines. So if you're just going after trout, a 15-pound monoliter is really all you need. If there's going to be perhaps a mackerel in there, you might want to bump up to 20 or even 30. There's a lot of mackerel, but in general, no more than 20-pound mono leader. And the mainline braid is very hard to beat, and just like a 10-pound braid is more than enough. So I generally do a 10-pound braid with as a mainline, and then about a 24-inch strand of 15 or 20-pound mono leader. Do not mess with the fluorocarbon. It's actually worse performance than mono while being more expensive. Fluorocarbon is not good for saltwater fishing. It is, as soon as it's barely nicked, it totally is. It's weakened, and there have been countless good fish lost from fluorocarbon.
I agree. I go 10 on the braid, and 20 is, I usually don't go below 20 personally. I know you do, but 20 is just kind of an all around good one for me.
Yeah, it's really relative to where you feel. Like Tampa Bay area, where I've been fishing a lot, it's a lot of pressure, and so going thinner is smart. But areas like that in Inkloat, that doesn't get nearly as much pressure, and so yeah, 20 can easily do it. So that's it. Yeah, just keep it simple. I think most people overcomplicate it and start changing lures before they change spots. That's really the biggest mistake. Trout they're an aggressive fish. They're way more aggressive than like bass and everything. And so if you're not catching trout, then they're not there. So pick up, move, go to the next spot. That being said, right, if you're in 5 feet of water and you're throwing a lure and you're not letting it get down to the bottom, then there very well may be some trout there. You're just not getting your lure on the bottom. So get your lure on the bottom, or as close to the bottom as you can without getting snagged every cast. And yeah, you'll know when there's trout there because they'll be hitting.
Yep. And use tools like Smart Fishing Spots. All of our members get unlimited access on your phone. Luke obviously was using his desktop, and you got it on your tablet, anywhere there's internet. And just amazing. I mean, you even have a seagrass. We didn't show that one, but that's another way. If you're just struggling on areas that have seagrass near a channel that has some depth, hit the seagrass button and boom, you'll start seeing that. I guess maybe a question for you, Luke. What if I'm in an area or even a state that just doesn't have much seagrass? What are you looking for, like in terms of that same sort of scenario as number one?
So I'm really oysters. So trout love any sort of bottom structure. They're ambush predators. So yeah, I should have mentioned that earlier. So yeah, in the bays, it's just the edges of seagrass are awesome. But in the marshes and rivers, any sort of oysters or shell bottom, anything other than sand is going to significantly increase the odds of there being fish. And that's another reason why jigs are so powerful, especially if you use, braid, like a thin braid that you can feel everything, and a nice rod. Getting a nice rod is a very, very big deal if you're throwing lures. But if you're throwing jigs and you've never been there before, it is crucial, because if you can feel what's happening as this lure is hitting the bottom, if there's shells down there, you're going to feel it. If there's oysters down there, you're going to feel that lure bumping up against them, and that is incredibly helpful intel. So use jigs, bounce bottom. If you don't feel the lure hitting stuff, that's a sign that you might not want to stay there too long. But if you are feeling that, when you're doing the retrieve and you feel it bumping into stuff, that's when you want to slow down and really fish that zone. Because even just like a small little increase, like just some oysters that raise up just like an inch or two off the bottom, that is incredibly helpful for these fish to feed, and they're going to be holding right next to them.
Cool. Anything else you can think of on just catching a ton of trout?
No, like I said, if you're not getting them, move. It's not, it's especially use this lure or something like it. Obviously, it's not like they just hit that one lure, but use something like it, get it down the bottom. And if you're not catching fish or getting strikes, move. Don't change lures.
Yep. And use Smart Fishing Spots. There's all kinds of layers. There's even a Smart Fishing Spot layer that shows you some spots that identified some hot spots in your area for that specific day and time. We've got live coaching, if you remember, every Thursday at noon. We go on live and answer any questions you have. We'll dissect an area for you. We got spot dissections and fishing reports in every area you can imagine, from Texas to Florida to New Jersey and everywhere in between. I was doing a video before this for North Carolina, and it was amazing how many fishing reports we had, like in that Wilmington area. Just you forget about all the different how much intel and trends that we have right there. And we've got Corey, who's one of our I guess kind of now a part-time coach up in that area, and he's reporting on what he's catching every single week and showing all kinds of trends. It is that community is so helpful. And I know we talked about that just a podcast ago, just the power of the network, but man, it is so helpful. So get in the community, ask questions. We're here to help. There's no bad questions. We don't allow negativity. There's no belittling or making fun of people. We're all here to help. Everyone started off as a beginner. Even if you are great like Luke, you're still trying to get better, right? We're all trying to improve. We're all trying to become more and more consistent. And fishing is like a puzzle where you never really finish it. You're always just kind of keep putting the new pieces in. So get in there, ask questions. We would love to help you out. And if you're not a member, come join us over at saltstrong.com. Guaranteed that you're going to catch more fish and save money on your tackle, and bonus, meet some cool friends, or you don't pay. It's that simple. For a whole year, for all the annual memberships, 100% money back guarantee for a full year. Unheard of, Luke. Unheard of in the industry.
Yeah, we know it works, and we know it's not just catching fish, right? It's more than that. You're going to be creating memories with your friends and family on the water. That's what kept our family together. Like all of our family vacations, almost all involved going out in the water, and we just all love fishing together, and we still do to this day.
We tried to leave each other many times. Parents tried to get divorced 10, 15 times, but the fishing just kept bringing us back.
Yeah, we had a fishing trip planned. So
I guess I'll stay one more year. crummy
But
family.
yeah. So just try it. Yeah, if you haven't tried it, make sure you give it a shot. It really is. It's really what I wish was around when we were learning the hard way. It would have saved me many thousands of dollars of buying the wrong equipment and all the gas going to the just terrible spots. And that's why we put that guarantee. We put all the risk on us, and not on you, just so you can give it a try. You can
And
pass it down.
that time you got humiliated at your company when you didn't catch anything all weekend.
Yeah. There's a
Sorry.
lot of stories, a lot of stories of issues we've had to learn had to deal with, and yeah, had this club been around, that would have saved a whole ton of embarrassment and as well as money.
Yeah. And I mean, you remember when I was in Texas, Lauren and I lived in Texas for 4 years. We were Texas residents. A lot of people might not know that. And we were in Houston. I was going over to fish in Galveston. I was clueless. Like, I would have given anything to have this when we were back there in Texas. So come join us, saltstrong.com. Hope to see you inside the club. We're getting closer to hitting 60,000 members, which is just wild. It is growing like crazy. So appreciate you guys. And if you're already a member, thank you so much. Make sure to be putting your reports and questions in the community. We're giving away over $1,000 of free stuff in there every month just for being active. Don't even have to enter. You're automatically entered if you're just active in the community. So get in there, and we'll see you guys over there. Peace.
See you.